So now biryani masala that's gone in.
ಆರು ಜಗ್ ನೀರು.
So the rice is now gone into that masala and it's going to cook for about 10 minutes.
ಘೀ ತುಪ್ಪ.
Ghee, tuppa. ಈಗ ದಮ್ಮಿಗೆ ಕುತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ.
ಹೌದು.
ಪೆಪ್ಪರ್ ಚಿಕನ್.
ಸರ್ ಇದು ಚಿಕನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ರೆಡ್ ಫ್ರೈ ಅಂತೀವಿ. ಇದು ಬಂದು ಉದಯಗಿರಿ ಗ್ರೀನ್ ಚಿಕನ್. ಇದು ಬಂದು ಕೀಮಾ ಬಾಲ್.
ಓ ಕೀಮಾ ಉಂಡೆ.
ಕೀಮಾ ಉಂಡೆ.
Biryani that you taste here is very different from your typical biryanis that you will eat elsewhere. This mutton is moist. And the salt that quite readily yields to your palate. I think now let's get to some of the other dishes that we have here. Delicious. Well, it's been a while since I've tasted a military hotel Uta. And so today we've arrived into one of the older parts of Bengaluru. We are on a road called Police Road, also called Cottonpet Cross, and we are here to lunch at Eshwar Rao's military hotel. Well, it takes a bit of an effort to get here. The roads are narrow. If you come in a car, well, forget about parking. But I'm hoping that what we will taste inside will perhaps make that effort worthwhile. ಮೇಲೆ ಇದೆ ಡೈನಿಂಗ್. ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ, ಹೇಗಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ನೀವು ಈಶ್ವರ್ ರಾವ್?
ಮಂಗಳವಾರದಿಂದ ಶುಕ್ರವಾರವರೆಗೂ ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ 5:30 ರಾತ್ರಿ 10 ಗಂಟೆ ಫ್ರೈಡೇವರೆಗೂ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಸಾಟರ್ಡೆ 6 to 4. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಸಂಡೇ ಬಂದು ನಮ್ದು 4 o'clock ಓಪನ್ 4 ಗಂಟೆಗೆ
ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ
4 ಗಂಟೆಗೆ.
ಬಿರಿಯಾನಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಯಾವಾಗ ಕುಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? ಫುಲ್ ನೈಟ್?
2 ಗಂಟೆಗೆಲ್ಲ ಎದ್ದು ಬಿಡ್ತೀವಿ.
2 ಗಂಟೆಗೆ. ಫ್ಯಾಂಟಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್. ಇದು ಏನು ನಿಮ್ದು ಬಿರಿಯಾನಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ?
ಹೌದು ಸರ್, ನಮ್ಮ ಬಿರಿಯಾನಿ.
ಇದು ಏನು ಅಕ್ಕಿ ಹೋಗಿದೆ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ? ರೈಸ್ ಏನಿದೆ?
ರೈಸ್ ಬಂದು ನಮ್ಮ ಜೀರಾ ರೈಸ್ ಸರ್.
ಜೀರಿಗೆ ಸಾಂಬಾರ್.
ಜೀರಿಗೆ ಸಾಂಬಾರ್. ಬೇರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕೋಲಮ್ ಇದೆ. 2 50-50.
ಇದು ಕೋಲಮ್.
ಕೋಲಮ್ ಅದು ಜೀರಾ.
ಇದರದ್ದು ಎರೋಮಾ ಇದೆ. ಇದರದ್ದು
ಅಷ್ಟು ಬರಲ್ಲ.
ಸೊ ಇದರಿಂದ ಪರಿಮಳ ಇದು ಸೀರಗ ಸಾಂಬಾರ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಬೋತ್ ದ ರೈಸ್ ಗ್ರೇನ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ರಾದರ್ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್, ಬಟ್ ದ ಸೀರಗ ಸಾಂಬಾರ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಮೋರ್ ಅರೋಮ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್. ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ದ ಕೋಲಮ್ ಬೇಸಿಕ್ಲಿ ಗಿವ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ ದಟ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಚಿನೆಸ್, ಒಂದು ಫಿಲ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ತರ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ.
ಹೌದು. ನಾವು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಮಸಾಲೆ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂತೀವಿ. ಆ ಮಸಾಲೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಒಗ್ಗರಣೆಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ತೀವಿ.
ಸೊ ಸನ್ ಪ್ಯೂರ್ ಆಯಿಲ್.
ಘೀ ತುಪ್ಪ.
ಸೊ ಎಣ್ಣೆ, ಘೀ ಮತ್ತೆ ಈರುಳ್ಳಿ, ಬಿರಿಯಾನಿ ಎಲೆ
ಹಾಕಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನಾವು ಶುಂಠಿ, ಬೆಳ್ಳುಳ್ಳಿ, ಹಸಿಮೆಣಸಿನ್ಕಾಯಿ, ಪಾಲಕ್ಕು, ಪುದೀನ, ಮೆಂತ್ಯ ಸೊಪ್ಪು ಎಲ್ಲ ರುಬ್ಕೊಂಡು ಒಗ್ಗರಣೆಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ತೀವಿ.
There's plenty of turmeric that goes in. So the turmeric combines with the green ingredients to give that biryani that yellowish green sort of hue. And now the biryani sherwa is going into that base.
ಇದಕ್ಕೆ 6 ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕು.
6 ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕು.
6 ಸೇರಿಗೆ 6.
So here's a measure. He says for 6 measures of the rice, I put 6 measures of that biryani mutton masala, that sherwa.
ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲ ಡ್ರೈ ಐಟಮ್ ಒಂದು 17ರಿಂದ 20 ಥರ ಡ್ರೈ ಐಟಮ್.
ಕಸೂರಿ ಮೇಥಿ ಹಾಕ್ತೀರಾ?
ಕಸ್ತೂರಿ ಮೆಂತ್ಯ, ಚಕ್ಕೆ, ಲವಂಗ, ಗಸಗಸೆ, ಯಾಲಕ್ಕಿ, ಸ್ಟಾರ್ ಕಾಯಿ, ಮರಾಠಿ ಮಗ್ಗು, ತುಂಬ ಐಟಮ್ ಹಾಕ್ತೀವಿ. ಸಣ್ಣ ಇವಾಗ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ 1 ರೌಂಡ್ ಮಟನ್ ಆಯಿತು, 1 ರೌಂಡ್ ಚಿಕನ್ ಕುಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ.
What they do is they first prepare the gravy with the meat, then they keep the meat aside. And then the gravy, they have a measure which is basically in that vessel, in that container here. So they take 1 jug water and 1 measure of the gravy, and that's how they cook the rice.
Yes. ಬಿರಿಯಾನಿ ಜೊತೆ ನಾವು ಹಾಕಿದಾಗ ಅದು ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ.
So he says now if you have it, it will be very spicy, but when you add it to the biryani, then with some water that's also added, the taste becomes fine. 6 ಆಯಿತು. So now he's got that biryani masala that's gone in. And now we'll go some water.
6 jug ನೀರು.
So there's 6 measures of the water that's going into that biryani masala.
6
And some salt. Meat takla.
ಮೀಟ್ ಹಾಕ್ಲೆ.
You know, which is interesting. So they speak Kannada, and most of the conversations are in Kannada. But I think when it comes to certain ingredients, their Maratha legacy, their Maratha ancestry takes over. And he said meat, dyamala. So meat is basically salt in Marathi.
ಸರ್.
So the rice is now gone into that masala and it's going to cook for about 10 minutes, and then after that dum for another 10 minutes. So totally 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Oh, so now it is going to cook on dum.
ಘೀ ತುಪ್ಪ.
Tuppa. ಏನು ತುಪ್ಪ? ನಂದಿನಿ.
ನಂದಿನೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಬೇರೆ ನಮ್ಮದು ಒಂದು ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ ತುಪ್ಪ ಇದೆ, ಕಣ್ಣನ್ ಅಂತ.
ಕಣ್ಣನ್ ಘೀ. ಈಗ ದಮ್ಮಿಗೆ ಕುತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ.
ಹೌದು. ರೋಸ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಹಾಕ್ತೀವಿ.
ರೋಸ್ ವಾಟರ್
ಇದು ಫ್ಲೇವರ್ಗೆ. ಕುರ್ಮಾ ಶೇರ್ವಾ ಇದು ಬಂದು ನಮ್ಮದು ಚಾಪ್ ಶೇರ್ವಾ ಅಂತ.
ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಇದು ನಿಮ್ದು ಗ್ರೇವಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಶುರು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಮಟನ್ ಕುಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ?
ಮಟನ್ ಕುಕ್,
ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮಟನ್ ಪೀಸ್ ಸೈಡ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಇಡ್ತೀರಾ,
ಸೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ.
ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಚಿಕನ್ ಕುಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ?
ಹೌದು.
ಆಮೇಲೆ ಚಿಕನ್ ಪೀಸ್ ಸೈಡ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಇಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಚಿಕನ್ ಕುಕ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಇದು ಚಾಪ್ಸ್ ಗ್ರೇವಿ ಆಗ್ಲಿ, ಬಿರಿಯಾನಿ ಗ್ರೇವಿ ಆಗ್ಲಿ, ಅದು ನೋಡಿ ಏನಿದೆ ಅವೈಲೇಬಲ್ ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಬೇಸಿಕ್ಲಿ ದ ಮಟನ್ ಇಸ್ ಕುಕ್ಡ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ in that masala, and then the chicken finds its way after the mutton is removed.
ಹೌದು. ಚಿಕನ್ ಪೀಸಸ್ಸು ಈ ಥರ ನಾವು ತೆಗೆದು ಬಿಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಮಟನ್ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಅದು ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಾವು ಯಾರು ಮಟನ್ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಮಟನ್ ಹಾಕ್ಕೊಡೋದು, ಚಿಕನ್ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಚಿಕನ್ ಹಾಕ್ಕೊಡೋದು. ಇದು ಪೆಪ್ಪರ್ ಮಸಾಲ, ಫುಲ್ ಪೆಪ್ಪರ್, ಪ್ಯೂರ್ ಪೆಪ್ಪರ್ನ ನಾವು ಒಂದ್ಸಲ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ 10 kg ಪೆಪ್ಪರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಅದೊಂದು 3 ದಿನ ನಾವು
ಸುಮಾರು ಪೆಪ್ಪರ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಫುಲ್
ಪೆಪ್ಪರು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಡ್ರೈ ಮಸಾಲೆ ಅವೆಲ್ಲ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಜಿಂಜರು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಟಮಾಟ, ಕರ್ಬೇವಿನ ಸೊಪ್ಪು,
ಟೊಮೆಟೊಸ್ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ.
ಟೊಮೆಟೊನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹಾಕಬೇಕು.
ವೆರಿ ನೈಸ್. ಇದೇನು ಸರ್? ಇದು
ಬಂದು ಗ್ರೀನ್ ಉದಯಗಿರಿ ಅಂತೀವಿ, ಫುಲ್ ಗ್ರೀನು. ಇದು ಬಂದು ಇದು ಕರ್ಬೇವಿನ ಸೊಪ್ಪಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡೋದು, ಪ್ಯೂರ್
ಕರಿ ಲೀಫ್.
ಸರ್ ಇದು ಕಣ್ಣಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ತುಂಬ ಒಳ್ಳೇದು.
ಐ ಲವ್ ದ ಫ್ಲೇವರ್ ಆಫ್ ದಟ್.
ಆದರೆ ಕಲರ್ ಯಾವುದೂ ಇದಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಏಕ್ದಮ್
ಪ್ಯೂರ್ ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ನಮ್ದು.
ಸರ್ ಇದು ಚಿಕನ್ ಫ್ರೈ, ಮಟನ್ ಫ್ರೈ ಮಸಾಲೆ ನೀವು ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನಕ್ಕೆ ತಿನ್ಬೋದು ಸರ್. ಇದು ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ವೈಟ್ ರೈಸ್ಗೆ ತಿನ್ಬೋದು. ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ವೈಟ್ ರೈಸ್.
I love the bunch of these masalas and each one is very different. So in this is it tomato ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ?
ಟೊಮೆಟೊ.
I can taste a bit of the ಖಾರ ಮತ್ತೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅದು ಸ್ಲೈಟ್ ಹುಳಿ ಇದೆ ಟೊಮೆಟೊ.
ಹುಳಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಬರುತ್ತೆ.
In that pepper one I saw the pepper, and then the green one is delicious.
ಯಾರು ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಅದು ನಾವು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಐಟಮ್ ಅದು.
ಪೆಪ್ಪರ್ ಚಿಕನ್.
ಸರ್ ಇದು ಚಿಕನ್ ಫ್ರೈ.
ಇದು ಕೆಂಪು ಮಸಾಲೆ.
ಚಿಕನ್ ರೆಡ್ ಫ್ರೈ ಅಂತೀವಿ. ಇದು ಬಂದು ಉದಯಗಿರಿ ಗ್ರೀನ್ ಚಿಕನ್. ಇದು ಬಂದು ಕೀಮಾ ಬಾಲ್.
ಕೀಮಾ ಉಂಡೆ. ಇದು ಶೇರ್ವಾನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ?
ಹೌದು
ಸರ್. ಕಡ್ಲೆಟ್ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ?
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಡ್ಲೆಟ್ ಹಾಕ್ತೀವಿ. ಫ್ಯಾಟ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹಾಕ್ಲೇಬೇಕು, ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದರೆ ಉಂಡೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಚಕ್ಕೆ, ಲವಂಗ, ಹಸಿಮೆಣಸಿನ್ಕಾಯಿ. ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇದು ನಮ್ಮ ಹೋಟ್ಲ್ ಬಂದು ಅಕ್ಕಿಪೇಟೆಯಲ್ಲಿ
ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಥಾಪನೆ
ಆಗಿದ್ದು.
ಯಾರು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು?
ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಅವರು ಗೋವಿಂದರಾವ್ ತಾತ ಅವರು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಗಣೇಶ್ ಅಂಕಲ್ಲು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ರುಕ್ಮಣಿ ಆಂಟಿ ಇರ್ತಾಯಿದ್ರು.
ರುಕ್ಮಣಿ ಆಂಟಿ ಅವರೊಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ನೀವು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿ?
ಹೌದು, ಅವ್ರ ಜೊತೆನೇ ಇದ್ದು ಅವರೇ ನನಗೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು 32 ವರ್ಷ ನನಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಹೋಲ್ಡ್ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ನನಗೆ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್. ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ರಿಲೇಷನ್ನೇ, ಅವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಇದ್ದು ಕಲ್ತ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು 18ರಲ್ಲಿ 2018 ಬಂದಿದ್ದು. January 28 ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು ನಾವು.
ಸೊ ದ ಲೆಗಸಿ ಆಫ್ ದಿಸ್ ಗೋಸ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಟು 1908. And Mr. Eshwar Rao worked with Mrs. Rukmini there in the old eatery in Akkipete, and then he came here and he began this in 2018. So this eatery is only about 5 years old, but the tradition goes back to 1908.
Okay. Total 32 year old ನಮಗೆ ಈ ಹೋಟೆಲ್ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್.
32 years ನೀವು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು?
ಹೌದು.
ಸೊ ನಿಮ್ಮದು ಈಗ ಏಜ್ ಎಷ್ಟು?
ನಂದು ಏಜು 42. ಆದರೆ ನಾನು ಒಂದು 6 ವರ್ಷ ಇರುವಾಗಲೇ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಆಂಟಿ ಜೊತೆ. ನಿಧಾನ ಸರ್.
ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ ರೀ, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಎಕ್ಸಸೈಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಊಟ ಮಾಡೋ ಮುಂಚೆ. Oh, so Eshwar Rao lives upstairs only.
ಹೌದು ಸರ್.
And the base masala is
ಸರ್
prepared
ಇದು
here.
ಚಾಪ್ಸ್ ಮಸಾಲೆ ಇದು.
Chops masala.
ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು 3 ರಿಂದ 4 ದಿನಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ.
Oh.
ಎಲ್ಲ ಫುಲ್ ಡ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿ.
ನಿಮ್ದು ಮಿಸಸ್?
ಮಿಸಸ್ ಇವರು.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ನಿಮ್ದು ಹೆಸರೇನು?
ಸುಮಿತ್ರಾ ಬೈ.
ಸೊ ನೀವಿಬ್ಬರು ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಮಸಾಲೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ರೆಡಿ ಮಾಡಿ?
ಎಲ್ಲ ನಾವೇ. ಇವ್ರು ಬಂದು ನಮ್ಮ ಭಾವ. ನಮಗೆ
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲ ಜಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ?
ಜಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಮರಾಠಾಸ್ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬೇರೆ ಯಾರು ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್. ಎಲ್ಲ ದೊಡ್ಡಪ್ಪ ಚಿಕ್ಕಪ್ಪ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಫುಲ್ ಮರಾಠಾಸ್ ನಾವು. ನಮ್ಮ ಆಂಟಿ ಅಂಕಲ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮರಳವಾಡಿ. ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಬಂದು ಕೋಲಾರ. ಫುಲ್ ಮರಾಠಿ.
ಮನೇಲಿ ಕನ್ನಡ ಮಾತಾಡೋದು? ಇಲ್ಲ,
ಮರಾಠಿನೇ ನಾವೇ.
ಮರಾಠಿ. So basically all the military hotels that exist in Bengaluru have a Maratha connection, ಅಲ್ಲ?
ಹೌದು, ಮರಾಠ ಫುಲ್.
ಎಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಸಹ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಯಾವ್ದು ಸಹ ಮಿಲಿಟರಿ ಹೋಟೆಲ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೋರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಫ್ಯೂ ಜನರೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಅದು ಮರಾಠ ಕನೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕತ್ತೆ. So when you come here you can sit downstairs, but I thought I would sit upstairs just so that I can soak in also the atmosphere of the kitchen right here. So we're making a beginning with the kaal soup. Of course, they also have the kaal, but the trotters. But I thought, since I'm going to eat all this other meat, I said I'm going to go easy on the trotters. And then we have the kheima unde, the Udaygiri chicken, the pepper chicken, and then that biryani. This is the mutton biryani. So the meat pieces are hidden beneath the rice. So I think for each biryani you get about 3 or 4 pieces of the mutton. But I think before we get there, I'm going to make a beginning with that kaal soup. You know, this is a kaal soup where I'm tasting more the flavor of the spices. You can taste the meat, the gelatinous flavor of the meat, but that's very mild, very subtle. A lot of coriander and pepper and the salt that really warms your throat. It's raining here in Bengaluru, and therefore the mercury too has dipped a fair bit, and this kaal soup is just what the doctor ordered for the current weather. Oh, that's delicious. And also the salt that completely opens your sinuses. You can see all that pepper spicing at the bottom. You're tasting a lot of the pepper, you're tasting some of the garlic, and then the sprightly freshness of the coriander. I think let's now move to that biryani. So the biryani is a bit sticky to the touch. You can also taste the starchiness of the rice. Chicken fry. Red masala.
Red masala.
You know, the biryani that you taste here is very different from your typical biryanis that you will eat elsewhere. Because out here, when that rice is cooking, it never really meets the meat. Pun intended. So they take some ghee and some oil in that pot, and then they add the spices and the green masala. And once that cooks to a certain point, they add the gravy, the sherwa that the mutton is cooked in, along with a measure of water. And when that comes together with the spices, that's when they add the rice in. So the meat has cooked in the sherwa, and it is the sherwa that goes to meet the rice minus the meat. So basically what they're trying to do is ensure that all the meaty flavors of the sherwa that the meat has cooked in is what is used to cook that rice. So this is a rice that packs a savory sort of a punch. Therefore many people out here also eat the khali pulav or the plain biryani, which is basically just the rice. Because after all, that rice has trapped all the flavor of the meat. The rice that they use here is the short grain rice, and also the rice clumps together because it's cooked in all that liquid, in all that broth. And there's also a bit of a starchiness to that rice. But within that now, I'm beginning to taste some of the flavors. I can taste the flavor of the green chili that has gone into that masala. That cooks right at the beginning of this rice biryani pot. And there's also a bit of a savory saltiness to that rice. I think let's now turn our attention to that mutton. That mutton is cooked in the gravy and then kept aside until an order is called out. This mutton is moist. And the salt that quite readily yields to your palate. You know, what are you tasting more in the mutton? is the flavor of the meat by and large. I got a bit of the nalli mule. This is sort of biryani where you need to savor the rice and the meat together. If you want a bit of the spicing to also be a part of the meaty flavors, because all the spicing is largely cradled in that rice, and because they keep the meat pieces aside after cooking it in that gravy, the meat doesn't have the opportunity to soak in the masalas. The first piece was soft and the sort that melted to the bite. This one warrants a bit of a chew. I've eaten in many military hotels, and I think every military hotel has its own way of preparing the biryanis. There are some where the meat is cooked with the masala and then the rice is added to that. So therefore the meat has had the opportunity to soak up the masala. Whereas here, the meat is cooked in the gravy and then kept aside on its own. So it doesn't really have the opportunity to soak up the masala. And therefore, what you need to ensure is a union of the rice and the meat to savor both the meaty flavors and also the punchiness of that masala. This is certainly a biryani that needs some getting used to. But be patient when you come here, especially if you haven't tasted this biryani before. Initially, you may find the meat and the rice a bit disparate, but as you tuck into it, one mouthful after the other, you will taste the flavors coming together. Whenever I'm tasting some mutton, I always want to get to that goodness within the bone, the marrow. I think what also adds to the rusticity of the meal here is that they use these dry leaf plates that they call patravalis, if I'm not mistaken. I think now let's get to some of the other dishes that we have here. And I think we want to make a beginning with that Udaygiri chicken. This is a chicken that's cooked in that green Udaygiri masala. And when I tasted the masala, there's a toastiness of that curry leaf. There's a bit of the green chili too that goes into it. That's delicious. The other interesting thing here is that you get plenty of the rice when you order the biryani. And that rice also becomes a canvas of sort to assimilate the flavors of the other side dishes that you will order. For instance, in this case, the toasty flavors of the curry leaf. And they roast that masala in plenty of oil. Eshwar was telling me it takes them hours to bhunao that masala. Therefore, you're tasting the curry leaf, but the flavor of that curry leaf and the other spices that go into it, whether it's the coriander, the chilies, etc., is quite rounded. Delicious. And there's some onion in some pudina chutney that's served to you. So every time you want a bit of a palate cleanser in between the dishes, help yourself to some of that. Plenty of pudina in that. I think next to taste some of that khaima unde. Get some of the gravy. That's a khaima unde that is slightly on the firmer side. I'm sure there's some red chili powder that goes into it along with some turmeric that stains it this color. And you can also taste the roasted gram flour that goes in as a binder. I think these are the sort of meaty sides that you should enjoy with plenty of the gravies. Because after all, it's the curries that are at the heart of a meal here. So the first thing that they prepare here are the gravies. And what's interesting is that all the gravies are prepared using the meat, the mutton, the sheep meat as the base. So when it comes to the mutton, they're so focused on the mutton that there is a specific masala when it comes to cooking the chop. There is a specific masala when it comes to cooking the biryani. But when it comes to the chicken, they pretty much let it soak in any mutton gravy that is available. But that doesn't really matter because eventually that chicken piece which has cooked in that mutton gravy meets its final companion in that masala, be it the Udaygiri masala or the pepper masala or the red fry masala or perhaps that biryani. The khaima unde by itself has a bit of that gram flour powderiness that you will taste. But I think when you combine it with the rice and some of that gravy, that helps offset some of that roasted gram flour texture. This rice is a sort that happily embraces all flavors. Whether I taste it with the Udaygiri chicken or that khaima unde sherwa, it goes well with everything that you combine it with. Regular Aili? ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀರಾ? ಏನು ಟೇಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಇಲ್ಲಿ? ಪೆಪ್ಪರ್. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹೆಸರೇನು ಸರ್? ಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ ವಾಸು. ಸೊ ಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ ವಾಸು ಸೇಸ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಪೆಪ್ಪರ್ ಇಷ್ಟ. ಪೆಪ್ಪರ್ ಇದೆ ನನ್ನ ಹತ್ರ, ಪೆಪ್ಪರ್ ಚಿಕನ್. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಅದು ಟೇಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ. ಫುಲ್ ಪೆಪ್ಪರ್ ಇದು ಪಂಚ್. ಮಳೆಕಾಲ ಶೀತಕಾಲಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದರೆ ಫುಲ್ ಒಳಗಿಂದ ವಾರ್ಮಿಂಗ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ಲ? ಓ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಪೆಪ್ಪರ್ ಪ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅ ಮೈಟಿ ಪಂಚ್. Let's taste now that pepper gravy with a mutton biryani rice. I'm really enjoying the flavors of almost everything that I find on my leaf here. Delicious. Every once in a while, go for some of that onion in that pudina masala, in that mint masala to cleanse your palate. After a while, if the meat is kept aside from the rice, it tends to dry up a bit. Nange sola bisi saal sikboda. Chopped sherwa, thank you. So if you find that some of your meat has become a little cold, that's nothing that a good chopped sherwa can fix. I think out here, you need to savor everything with the rice. Like I said earlier, the rice has that base flavor. So whether it's a biryani mutton piece or any of the other side dishes, you have to savor it with the rice. Normally I will not ask for an extra helping of the rice, but out here I'm enjoying it so much, and also this batch of the rice is very hot. Busy there. I couldn't say no to it. Also because of the texture of the rice, it's a sort that readily clumps into these undes of sort. I think next, let's go for that chicken fry. You know what's really nice is the manner in which that masala has been roasted in oil. You know, sometimes if the masala is not roasted well enough, you taste that slightly harsh spike of certain ingredients of that masala. But out here, that masala is well rounded. So in this, you can taste the warmth that comes from some red chilies. And I'm told it's a combination of the byadgi and the guntur. The byadgi gives it color and the guntur gives it the heat. So you can taste the warmth that comes from the chilies, and then also a bit of the tartness that comes from some tomatoes that the masala is braised with. I think let's try to wrap things up with that piece of the mutton. This piece of the meat is soft. All that you're tasting is a savory, unctuous flavor of that meat with some of that charbi, with some of that fat. And you will also see some of the fat globules holding on to the meat. And the film of oil that you see floating on top is not just the oil, but also the fat from the chops that have rendered into that gravy. Kabab, thank you. So I'm going to introduce some more of that meaty, fat-laden unctuousness to that mutton piece and also that biryani. Of course, in this form, it's less biryani and more of a rice with meat curry. But at the end of the day, it's the flavor that matters. This sort of combination that will comfort you on the rainiest day, or perhaps if you're just having a bad day in general. As I look around, I see my fellow diners, and perhaps most of them are working in and around this area. They've probably had a busy morning doing whatever they do, but I'm sure when they come here and have this leaf placed in front of them, and when they reach into that piping hot biryani rice and that mutton along with whatever side, I'm sure it takes away all the stresses, all the weariness of the busy morning they must have had. Let's now taste some of that chicken kebab. That kebab is nice and moist. Love the flavors. But a big challenge in most places is for them to cook that chicken to the core completely. Out here they've managed to cook it rather well, where it's almost cooked through without completely drying out, and the bird is still moist and juicy. Well, I've enjoyed my meal here. Right from that mutton biryani to that chicken Udaygiri, that pepper chicken, and also that red chicken fry. The khaima unde is a sort that makes for a pleasant companion to your biryani rice. The kebab too is a sort that is worth an order if you want to taste something dry. But if you would have asked me, come here and order for the biryani along with one or two of the sides, because that's all you need to savor your meal here at SG Rao Military Hotel. So this is an eatery that stakes its claim to a 110-year-old culinary tradition. I personally don't know the historical facts, but what is most appealing about SG Rao Military Hotel is Eshwar Rao's commitment to preserving these culinary traditions over the last 30 years that he has been working. He says he began at an early age. He was 6 or 8 when he began working in the kitchen under the previous mentors, and he's in his early 40s now. He lives upstairs where him and his wife prepare the masalas for these various preparations every morning. And I think that's what makes a meal at SG Rao Military Hotel special. It's a bit of an effort to get here, but if you want to savor a morsel of Bengaluru's military hotel tradition, you definitely have to make at least one visit here. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Gourmet on the Road. Until the next time, take care, stay safe, stay strong, and happy eating. If you'd like to support the work that we do at Food Lovers TV, do consider joining our membership community on YouTube by hitting the join button below or on the home page. You could pledge a nominal sum and receive special privileges like behind the scenes footage, shoot updates, access to live Q&As, and a lot more. You could support us on our Patreon page as well. For more info, check out the links in the description below. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment below. Happy eating!